Hello, everyone.
Hi.
That's Jodie saying it's been a while. We're trying to remember how to do a podcast. Welcome back, everybody, to the More Than Sunday podcast. It's been a little while. I think I did one a couple weeks ago. I can't even remember what it was about, with whom, any of that. Oh, it was with Piney.
Josh Piney. Yeah.
With Josh Piney. Yeah. Well, Jodie, welcome. Welcome back yourself.
Thank you. It's good to be back. It only took me 20 minutes to figure out how to hook everything back up again to do this.
This is Jodie, our Associate Pastor. I'm Chris. I'm our Senior Pastor here at CrossWinds. And we wanted to do a podcast and just kind of walk everybody through a little bit of an update as it comes to why we're not meeting indoors right now. We know that that's a big question. A number of you have probably been wondering and asking. You see that some churches around are doing that in Alameda County, and we're not. And Jodie and I recorded a podcast probably a few months ago where we talked about the outdoor thing we were starting. Right. And we just thought, easier than an email. Sometimes it's better to just have a conversation to let people listen in on that a little bit, right?
Yep, for sure.
Yeah.
So let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it. So just to go back, I was on a call with the Alameda County Health Department again, 3 weeks ago. In fact, we have another one this Thursday, so there may be an update. But by the time this gets released, it will be outdated.
It might be, yeah.
Which is the case with almost everything that is happening with this pandemic. But we were on a call, and they let us know, this is going to be kind of funny, actually. I don't know if I told you this, Jodie. They let us know that as of November 1st, I think it was November 1st, or it might have been like 3rd. It was some date. We would be allowed to go back to meeting in person indoors again, 100 or less. And people on the call, pastors started pointing out, you realize that's a Monday. Like
the day after we would want to meet, right?
Any reason why we can't move that to Sunday? And it's like they hadn't even thought about it. They're such good people there, but I don't blame them for not having thought that through. Right. Their week starts on Monday. Mm-hmm. And so they said, yeah, that's kind of the way it is. And then the next thing you know, on like a Friday, we all get an email that says, hey, you're officially allowed to open this Sunday, which is... Thanks for the 2 days notice. We'll get right on that.
There's so much going on for them, I'm sure.
There is. I know. I feel like they must have calls every day, all day, sure, with different industries and fields. So anyway, they kind of updated us and our churches to be able in Alameda County to go indoors as long as that church goes indoors with 100 people or less, which is exactly what the outdoor criteria are. Right. 100 people or less.
Right. But can we talk a little bit about the language surrounding that? Because my understanding is, and I think this is really important as we talk about it, just kind of setting maybe even the tone for the conversation, is that I think they're saying it's allowed 100 people or less indoors, but it's still discouraged. And I think sometimes we don't focus on that other part. Like just because it's allowed doesn't mean it's an ideal situation, even still at this point.
It doesn't mean it's safe.
Right.
I think, and yes, You're right. And there are things you can do to mitigate the risk and make it safer. Like in our case, they told us you could obviously socially distance inside, seat people really far apart from each other, a number of those kind of things. But even then, it doesn't make it entirely safe. But that said, Jodie, I'd ask the question, when is anything in this life ever safe?
Oh, it's not. It's not. But I think because we're dealing with something that's still a little bit unknown.
Yeah.
That's why it's important to point that out, I think.
No, you're right. So, one of the reasons that CrossWinds has not made the decision, which is part of why we're having this podcast, not just to tell you what they told us we could or couldn't do, but one of the reasons we haven't made the decision to start meeting indoors is just that, what Jodie just mentioned. It might not be safe just because it's allowable. I think there's actually a passage in this that the Apostle Paul writes.
Right.
Everything is I'm going to use poor grammar here, but
okay, go for it. But not all things are beneficial. Yeah,
but not all things are beneficial. But not all things are beneficial, and that might be the case with this exact thing right here. But really, beyond that, the other reason is it's the exact same as the outdoor. The criteria as far as the 100 or less. And I guess our thought was, well, we have a beautiful outdoor space. We are loving getting to do the outdoor gatherings we're getting to do right now. We didn't used to do these in this context. And it's arguably better to do 100 or less outdoor, just in terms of even what the service feels like, than it is to do it in a 1,000-seat auditorium with 100 people or less spread throughout the entire auditorium.
Right, because my understanding is if we moved it indoors, everyone would have to be masked, right? Like even teachers would have to be masked, which is not ideal.
So that was the follow-up question as pastors. We started asking, okay, so we go inside 100 or less, what does that mean? And yes, one of the things it means is that teacher needs to wear a mask. I have not been, you have not, when you've taught on Sundays in our outdoor gathering, been wearing masks now. I'll say our front row, people put their lawn chair wherever they want to put it. That's how we're doing outdoors these days. But it seems to me like the front, I mean, you have a hard enough time indoor getting anyone to sit in the front row at church as it is. Outdoor, they make their own front row, and it's like 20 feet back.
Yeah, it's way far away.
It's a long way off. But I think we felt safe enough doing that outside, just in light of the situation. Tons of open air and, ways for our breath or our droplets to disperse.
To travel.
And breath. Disperse. Let's be honest. Sometimes I've had a lot of coffee breath before I start teaching, and you don't want to be that close. But the other reason besides the masks is they told us if you go indoor, no singing. So we've been doing about 2 songs a Sunday before we start the message. Right now, if you were to come, if you haven't come yet, we'd love to have you if you feel comfortable with it. But we do it's like a 45-minute service, and Derek or whomever will get up and lead us in a couple of songs, and then we pretty much just kind of go right into the message. And you consider what it would be to move that indoors. Literally, all this would be the message. I mean, I guess we could play a drama on the stage out with masks on, and it's just
yeah, you could, but
it would not be CrossWinds.
No, it wouldn't be. And honestly, I think as pastors, if we've been talking to people about the outdoor service versus indoor, when we tell people that we wouldn't be able to worship or sing indoors, it's almost like a deal breaker for them, and they're like, "Oh, hands down, let's just stay out. Let's stay outdoors, so we'll at least have the option to do worship."
To be clear, if you have not come, everyone who's coming on Sunday is wearing a mask even as they sing. So we're that's one of our rules is you got to keep your mask on. Apparently, unless you're teaching in that moment. But I think we would find that a service we could put on indoors where even your teachers are wearing masks, there's no singing anymore. It just that is not better than what we're currently doing outdoors.
Correct.
And that's kind of been the decision maker for us. Now, I'll say this. It's getting colder. And we are very cognizant of the fact that it's going to start to get a little bit harder to meet outside as the rain comes and wind, cold weather, things along those lines. Jodie, what are we thinking? I'm putting you on the spot because I didn't think I was going to ask this.
No,
but what are we thinking for when we do see it start to get colder?
There's 2 things. Number one, we've got a contingency plan. I think for some things, like we can always move into our barn.
Yep,
that's covered, the not barn. We can do service in there. We've got the potential for a heater to keep the barn warm and safe and cozy for that worship service. On the off chance that the barn just wouldn't cut it due to whatever circumstances or whatever weather we're getting, if it's too windy or if it's just pouring rain or hailing, if it's horrible, we would cancel service at that point. But we've got contingency plans and we've got some criteria that we've set up that we said only under these circumstances would we cancel the service. So it'd have to be pretty bad for us to say we're not going to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the Knot Barn, if you haven't been out there to look at that barn, it is right next to the area where we're doing the outdoor service right now. And it's kind of an open air barn. What I mean is we've got open sides on the left and the right, the giant doors that go 25 feet up, those slide open. So there's it is for all intents and purposes basically outside with a covering. If you've driven by restaurants that are outside right now that have a tent over you, that's kind of like what the Not Barn is, except it's got electricity, and
Yes.
it allows us to try to plug in a heater. We're actually talking about getting like one of those NFL sideline heaters that you can just blow at people and kind of warm them up. We know that none of this heat's going to stay in the barn. It's all going to just dissipate out the sides. So, but at the same time, we're going to kind of experiment with that
Yep.
a little bit here during the week to see, is this even doable? And our hope is we can come up with something that allows us to continue to do this over the course of the rest of the winter. We'll see.
Right. This is how we roll at CrossWinds. This is how we do it.
It's all an experiment. So that's part of why we're not meeting indoors. Now, some other reasons. You are probably seeing in the news and just around you a spike in the number of COVID cases. I got off the phone with somebody yesterday who knows a lot more about this than I do, who said, Chris, there is a spike in the Tri-Valley. Did you know that, Jodie?
Yeah,
Right
I read it. I read it in the patch this morning. There's a spike
You did?
in cases just in Livermore.
No way.
Yeah.
See, I didn't know that. Well, I did. I found that out yesterday. I'll say without, naming names, we've had at least one staff member test positive who's a part of our team here. And that it's just to say, and that person is doing okay health-wise. But it's just to say this is very real. We're watching our other people on staff who are exposed need to go get tested, and so when we say let's not go indoors, there's another good reason, which is had we gone indoors 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago when we were allowed to start going indoors, I think we'd have 100 people who'd all be going, oh no, should I go get tested? What am I, so I think, thank God we didn't. And then I'll just remind everybody, and this is true of our outdoors too, we still don't have anything happening during that service for kids. So if you are a family with young kids, who are under middle school age, maybe even middle school age, it's not ideal right now. I keep reminding people when I talk to them, our number one way for you to experience CrossWinds right now is still the online service. We do an online service right now. We just happen to also have a gathering for people who are like dying to get back on campus and be in that kind of experience. But we know that gathering is nothing like what most people at CrossWinds need, which is something that gives you a place for your kids and gives you warmth from a furnace that is blowing air through a vent.
Right. And it's the same for our kids. Online is still the main thing for our kids as well, even though I think Mayor Josh is going to start doing some family services on Sundays. Online is still the main thing for our kids too. And they've just launched a new curriculum called Orange that is awesome. Yeah. And so really I would encourage you, if you've got kids and if you've been maybe tuning out a little bit, tune back into that, because it's really awesome what they're doing. Their content is really good.
Yeah. I thank you. I'm glad you brought up that our children's ministry, and they are actually beginning an outdoor service as well here in the next few weeks. And that'll be a chance for families with kids to get back on campus, since they maybe can't come to the Sunday morning one that we're doing right now.
Right.
So yeah, lots coming up. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the last question that comes up in all of this is, when will we go back indoors? Like, what's the timing on that? And I guess the way we'd answer it is this, and we have not, fully decided what this is, but this is how I'm answering it, at least. Either until the law changes, where we're able to go, we are now allowed to have 500 indoors or 250 or whatever the thing is, or the law no longer makes sense. I mean to say, I'm not above breaking the law. I'm not above us. And I'm saying that on a podcast. I'm not above us just saying, you know what? We have the freedom to worship. It's the right thing to do. We ought to get back together. At the same time, the laws make sense right now. There is an outbreak. There's a spike. We're seeing people get hurt. We should be doing the healthy thing. And if, God forbid, the time ever came where we all looked at the law and said, that's oppressive, it's not helping anyone, this is stupid, which I'm not saying, you're not saying. I think our elders, our pastors, we all look and go, this is really good.
Yes.
Then maybe we'd be happy to do this other thing. But in the meantime, by this other thing, I mean meet indoors. Right. But in the meantime, I think we're looking and going, yeah, this makes sense. We should stay outside.
Yeah. And I'll say too, it's not just, we do carefully discern these things week after week in terms of, consulting our elders, talking with our leadership team. The decisions that we're making really aren't based on our own personal opinions. We really are prayerful about it and being discerning in terms of what we're deciding to do.
All right, everybody. That is the update. Now, podcasts coming up. At some point, I'm going to get Jodie and Andrea both on here, and we're going to talk about Christmas.
Yay!
Christmas is going to be so fun this year. I am so excited. I want to talk about it now, but I think it'd be better if we get Andrea on too, and we can all discuss it together. We've got something really creative and neat planned, and a way to do this, I think, in a healthy, fun way. Anyway, I'm already starting to talk about it.
Yeah,
So keep your eyes out.
Don't steal our thunder.
Keep your eyes out for another podcast on that, and that'll be coming up soon. Okay. All right. Thanks, Jodie. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.